Three special teams goals, including two on the same penalty kill, helps propel the Panthers over the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first of their home and home.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this post-game edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and Locked On Tampa Bay Lightning. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making both of our podcasts your first listen of the day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now you can win up to $250 after you place your first $5 bet, and you could do that all on FanDuel. We are here at Amalie Arena, where the Florida Panthers defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning by a final score of 4-2, with the Florida Panthers scoring, not getting a single 5-on-5 goal, 3 goals on special teams, and then 1 via an empty net to ice the game. So, and here to break this down here on this first segment of both of our individual podcasts, he is Josh Sperber of Locked On Lightning, and great to be connecting with you in person. And what are your biggest takeaways from tonight's matchup between these two teams?
Yeah, well, first was obviously the special teams. I mean, that played such a huge role. It was something that Coach Cooper was talking about during pretty much the entire postgame show. The special teams for the Lightning, for the most part this season, has been an advantage. They're in the top 5 in power play scoring in the entire league and in the top half in the penalty kill. Might have dropped down a little bit today, but, I mean, that was really it. You know, those 2 shorthanded goals for the Panthers sealed the game pretty much. And without those, things might have been different. It could have gone into overtime. Maybe the Lightning would have gotten lucky and grabbed one, but we saw great goalie play from today's game. And the simple fact is the Panthers won the battle on special teams, and that's the big reason they won the game.
Yeah, Spencer Knight in goal for this one for the Panthers. Andre Vasilevsky in goal for the Tampa Bay Lightning in this one. And the Panthers came into this matchup shorthanded another forward, where Jesper Boquist is already out day-to-day. Then Jonah Gadjevich is out day-to-day, which they recalled Rasmus Asplund for this one to insert into the fourth line for the Panthers in this one. But really, the Panthers, their ability to win draws early on, that Sam Bennett line was winning a lot of their draws early. John Cooper was mixing some of the changes for early on, putting on the fourth line, and then eventually putting on the top line for the Tampa Bay Lightning in this matchup for them. And really, that's a line that Paul Maurice went back to in the most recent games since Sam Bennett was out with that illness just a few days ago. But really, that one really set the tone for the Florida Panthers. And also Spencer Knight really set the tone as well in goal on a big stop by Brayden Point. At one point in the third period, John Cooper separated Nikita Kucherov and Brayden Point, but then went back to them, and then it resulted in a goal for Tampa Bay. So what was it? Any takeaways from the Panthers' ability to take away Nikita Kucherov and Brayden Point in this one?
Yeah, it's difficult to do that in general. This was the first time that Kucherov hasn't scored a point in his last 9 games, and he was also on record watch as one more assist he needs to pass Martin St. Louis and now become second all-time in Tampa Bay Lightning history. And I don't think Point was taken out of the game. That I'm going to disagree with you there. I think Spencer Knight just played an incredible game. That first period shot that you were talking about, that part I absolutely agree with. I think that is a completely tone-setting save from Spencer Knight there, because time and time again at Lightning games, we've seen them score early, and if they score early, they tend to pile it on a lot more. This is one of the best offensive teams in the NHL, and if you can take out, a majority of their offense, keep them silent on the power play, again, a lot of that has to do with some saves, because from Vasilevsky and Knight last night, we saw some spectacular saves in close, too. There were a couple of those little flip over the goalie shots that Knight just stonewalled, skater on crease. I mean, he made some really difficult saves, and that was the most key. It wasn't about taking a star out of the game, because Kucherov certainly had some chances. He was just stonewalled by Knight like the rest of the Lightning were.
Yeah, and for Brayden Point, that's 18 points in the last 8 games for him. Just an incredible run of those two, what they've been able to take on their load recently for the Tampa Bay Lightning, basically all season. I mean, Brayden Point and Sam Reinhart are battling for the top of the Rocket Richard, even though right now Leon Draisaitl is in the lead for that in the NHL. But I mean, for the Panthers, they got that power play goal off a redirection from Sam Reinhart for his 21st of the season. But really, for the Panthers, they did not get to the net front early on for Andre Vasilevsky. There was a few times where it was clear lanes to the net, and Vasilevsky just easily getting the glove on it, even putting a little mustard on one shot that Sam Bennett had. And really made the difference when the Panthers were able to get those higher percentage shots. We saw it with the tip in by Sam Reinhart on that power play, and then even the 2 turnovers that the Tampa Bay Lightning had while they were on the same power play. And in that same stretch with the 2 penalty kills that the Panthers had, no shots on goal that they allowed for Tampa Bay there.
Yeah, I mean, both teams had their chances, but it felt like they were few and far between. The crowd was very involved in this game. I don't think I saw a single empty seat. Plenty of red, obviously plenty of Lightning fans. The Lightning fan base is always going to show out, but you can kind of tell how a game goes. Like, their big plays, you can hear the crowd. And it seemed like every 5 minutes or so, you hear like a big gasp and a shout from either a Panthers fan group or the rest of the arena in blue and white. So there weren't as many of those just huge plays. And honestly, I feel like most of the things I heard the crowd yelling for again were those saves. The goalies played such a huge factor in this game against 2 teams, not just with some of the best offenses in the league, not just, 2 teams in playoff contention, but 2 teams with superstar players. Like you said, you got 2 guys on the Rocket Richard watch list. Might not want to ask either of us who is going to win that, because we'll say different people, but that's an issue for another time. You've got 2 goalies stopping some of the game's best players on both sides. Barkov had nothing. Reinhart had that empty netter. Kucherov had a bunch of shots missed. Point had that one beautiful goal, but that really seemed to be it. It just didn't seem like the star players were as big of a factor in this game as they usually were. And it had nothing to do with their game being off. It was simply the fact that goalies dominated this game.
Yeah, the goalies definitely did in this one. And Barkov, after a great game on Friday against the St. Louis Blues, where an individual effort really helped them draw the penalty, and then eventually he got the game winner then on that 2-1 win. Panthers win 4 in a row. But also on the Panthers side of things, 10 shorthanded goals on the season now for them, with AJ Greer getting on the score sheet there, and also Eetu Luostarinen for the Florida Panthers, his 5th of the season. For the Panthers side of things, I mean, they won a Stanley Cup on elite penalty killing, and how they were able to replace that with losing Kevin Stenlund. They're not necessarily getting the face-off wins for them on the PK. They're not always killing it at the highest rate, but they have an absolute weapon when they're able to just come up the ice with speed, disrupt it either at the red line or at the blue line. I mean, one of them was an attempt at a drop pass in the neutral zone, and then the Panthers were able to go where the second shorthanded goal that they scored, it was beaten by Vasilevsky top shelf on that one for that one. And really, again, it came down to those higher percentage shots that the Panthers had versus what they weren't getting earlier.
And another point about the Panthers, just skill on the power play, really in any special team scenarios. There are only 2 players since 1992 who have more points on special teams than Sam Reinhart right now. The leader in that category, a legend in this very building, Dave Andreychuk, who had 38 in 1992 with the Buffalo Sabres. But just to make that little lightning connection, but at the same time, it does show the dominance of Sam Reinhart. If you can do something that hasn't been done in 30 plus years, that is remarkably impressive. And Reinhart, obviously a big reason why the Panthers won that game, won the Stanley Cup, beat the Lightning in that first round series. And then again tonight, he stepped up on special teams when the Panthers needed him, when that was really going to be the deciding factor between these 2 teams. I think that's something both teams knew, because they're so strong on their power play offenses, and the best one had to win. And it wasn't the power play, it was the shorthand that defined the game for the Panthers. But still, special teams nonetheless played a really important role. And with a guy like Sam Reinhart leading the charge, good things are usually going to happen for the Panthers.
Yeah, after scoring 57 goals last season, getting that new contract for him, he's here for 8 years, and him and Barkov as a pair on the same line, even though they're not currently playing on the same line right now. It's just a force that the Panthers are that they put on other teams night in and night out for them. But that's going to do it for this first segment of this post-game edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers and Locked On Tampa Bay Lightning. In segment number 2, we are both going to go individually into our own podcast to continue this breakdown of this 4-2 Florida Panthers win over the the Tampa Bay Lightning. So keep it right here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and Locked On Tampa Bay Lightning. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. And if you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks, the best chance to turn your sports knowledge into real money, whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports. Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out and get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. This week on Prize Picks, I am eyeing Jack Hughes for more than 4 shots on goal and Artemi Panarin to get more than 1 assist. It's so simple to make my picks and have fun with friends while potentially cashing out fast. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly at Prize Picks. Run your game. Segment number 2 here on this Monday, December 23rd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday. Now to discuss our 3 stars of the game. Number 3, I'm going to give it to Spencer Knight. Spencer Knight was outstanding. I especially thought that he was when he made that original stop early on Braden Point for him, and also 19 of 21. The Panthers really protected him well, and the fact that the Cats spotted him a few goals on the PK helped him relax a little bit in the net. Again, we've seen the development of Spencer Knight, how he's not chasing for saves. He's still very still in his net, knowing when to be up on his crease whenever he's supposed to take away the shooting lane for him. And Spencer Knight spoke a lot about how the X's and O's, that he doesn't necessarily understand them, but the guys really helped him out, is talk about doing what he's supposed to do, and the guys really stuck with it as well there. Number 2 star for the Panthers, I'm going to give it to Eetu Luostarinen, the shorthanded goal that ended up being the GWG for the Panthers. He spoke a lot about how the guys were just alert when the Lightning came up with speed in the neutral zone. And for Tampa Bay Lightning, who still has a lot of their pieces from their championship runs over the last few years, right before the Panthers got their cup, the guys, and especially in this Battle of Florida, where the Panthers have a few series in them already for them, and even the last few regular season games that the Florida Panthers have been successful in, the alertness of going into an opposing barn, and especially when the Panthers got into their fair share of penalty trouble, which Erod may be a little impulsive with his stick there. Uvis Balinskis, I was honestly maybe a 50-50 call on that first one penalty for the Panthers there, and for the Cats to still be alert and to still get up in speed for them to get those 2 shorthanded opportunities for them was really crucial for them in order to really separate themselves from this one. And Eetu also spoke about how the team needs every single part of the operation to work. If one doesn't, it's going to be a lot harder to. It might not be on a specific game by game basis, but overall, in order to ultimately achieve your goal, and we saw with the Panthers how they did that in their route to the Stanley Cup last year for them. And that was another example of that when it came to Sunday afternoon's game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And number 1 star, the 2 goals for him, along with the empty netter, Sam Reinhart, 2 points on this one. The first power play goal on the redirection off of Aaron Ekblad's shot. Also, got to mention Aaron Ekblad, 250 assists now in his career as a Florida Panther, now 3rd all-time for him, right behind Jonathan Huberdeau and Alexander Barkov, now past Stephen Weiss for 3rd, now at 3rd most assists for him, and 3 hits on the night too for him, and spoke about how you need a little bit of those opportunities for the other guys on shorthanded. I mean, we've seen the amount of shorthanded goals that Sam Reinhart has scored in his career as a Florida Panther, and also discussed about how with the other guys contributing shorthanded, it creates more opportunities and saves them more opportunities. And I think that when he speaks about that, he's talking about him and Alexander Barkov not getting as much ice time shorthanded. It's funny because the last few years, even before the 2022-23 season, I was talking about how the Panthers got to find a way to give Barkov and Sam Reinhart less ice time on the PK. But I mean, boy, have I been eating my words on that whenever I spoke about that, because those guys are just as effective when it comes to the penalty kill, and those are the guys who really lead the example. I mean, you don't want to shelter some of your star players, especially when that's a part of their game that they really contribute the most there for them. And so that's kind of where I was thinking when it came to when he spoke about saving the guys more opportunities when we spoke to them in the locker room after the game, and talk about how defense leading to offense for them in there. But for the Panthers, I can't wait for NHL.com to refresh to see what their net PK percentage is, because last time I checked, they were just second in the NHL, right behind the New York Rangers. The Rangers don't have as many shorthanded goals, although they're struggling, especially on 5-on-5 play, which, go figure, that's something that happened to them last year, and even in the Eastern Conference Final, where the Florida Panthers found a way to win that one. But still, the fact that the Florida Panthers have that part of their game and that part that's an operation that's working is definitely, once again, adding on to just loads of confidence for the Panthers, and just their ability to just not be afraid to go after checks in the neutral zone when they try to drop those drop passes. Also, an honorable mention, I want to give Dmitry Kulikov that for the puck separating hit on Brandon Hagel, that got the Panthers to break the puck out, and then Sam Reinhart winning the race after the puck was flipped out of the zone for him right before he scored. And the hit that he gave Brandon Hagel, which we saw that he was bleeding after from his mouth. Also, the physicality for the Panthers. Going to check the hits category for this game. The Panthers lead the league in hits this season, so it's really the intimidation factor that the Panthers continue to bring night in and night out. The hits were 26-24 in favor of the Panthers there. And just a lot of it, the physicality. I mean, we saw that even on the penalty that Sam Bennett took in the neutral zone when he lost the puck and elbowed Brandon Hagel in the head. Unfortunately, Brandon Hagel went to the locker room, but he was able to come back there. Also, a few bangs and bruises for the Tampa Bay Lightning as Connor Geekie lost his edge in the second period and collided in the boards. He also collided in the boards earlier in the game, which was a scary moment for him there. Nick Paul also had to be attended to as well in this one. So that was we hope that those guys are all right when it comes to their fair share of injuries for them, and just getting the necessary medical attention for them. But also, the Panthers had multiple opportunities when the Tampa Bay Lightning also cut it to a 1-goal deficit. I mean, man, I wish that Mackie Samoskevich scored on this one, where the third line of him, where there was a line where him and Mackie Samoskevich were on the ice at the same time. Lundell goes for a backhand chance, and then Mackie Samoskevich goes on the follow with Vasilevsky out of the net slightly, and then he comes out with the save there. So just unfortunately for Mackie Samoskevich not getting the goal on that one, but for Anton Lundell continuing to create play there, and all class save by Andrei Vasilevsky. And then, as Josh mentioned, help the crowd get into this one. And also mentioning Dmitry Kulikov, just before the end of the second period for them, he was able to create something off the rush that the puck went off the post, and that for the ends of the periods, in the end of the first period, when the Panthers allowed the Tampa Bay Lightning to tie the game, the Panthers were pretty puck dominant in that one. Just a lapse in defensive coverage with Forsling and Ekblad once the puck was separated off the forecheck, and then Nick Paul was able to get that one to tie the game at 1. But really, the way they ended that period, I wasn't necessarily concerned for the Panthers there. after that. And also the way they finished off the second period as well when with that rush from Dmitry Kulikov. Also, the moment where we thought the game was won, easy one for me tonight. Usually you could pinpoint one or two things, but the moment that the Etulis Reinen got that second shorthanded goal, 42 seconds apart from the first one after AJ Greer scored, that strip off that drop pass from Connor Geeky to Anthony Cirelli, able to just get up in speed, go north, and then beat Vasilevsky top shelf. That one was the moment where I thought the game was won. And for the Panthers, it feels like that every single time there's a lot of other players making that difference for them. And I mean, that's 2 goals in the last 3 games now for Etu, scored in the Minnesota game just a few days ago, and now getting it again for this one for the Florida Panthers here. And undefeated once again after leading after 2 periods, 83-0-4 since March of 2023 when going into the 3rd period. It's just the Panthers playing that shutdown brand of hockey. Two shots each for Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov on the night. The Panthers found a way to limit and not give the opposition the quality chances for them. And once again, Spencer Knight stood strong in this one. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we're going to discuss more about the 5-on-5 play. We're going to discuss all the regular season games as of late for the Florida Panthers against the Tampa Bay Lightning in this barn, and help you prepare for tomorrow's matchup, as these 2 teams will meet again in Sunrise. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And the NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways to pick up W, and I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. So just visit FanDuel.com today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Segment number 3 here on this Monday, December 23rd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday. So strange saying December 23rd. It's so close to Christmas and the start of Hanukkah and Boxing Day. So once again, happy holidays to each and every one of you guys out there. I hope that you guys are enjoying your Sunday, as not only the Florida Panthers got a win. If you happen to be at home and watching both games, you also got to see the Miami Dolphins get a win against the San Francisco 49ers. Their playoff chances are still very low, but still they're fighting until the very end. And the Panthers, just like the Panthers, they fight until the very end of the game. And we definitely saw that on Sunday afternoon. And speaking of fighting in games, the Panthers, 3 straight regular season games that they have won in Tampa, including a win in the playoffs last year in Game 4. Just lots of memories made in this building from last year when the fourth line really contributed at the time with Stephen Lawrence and Kyle Okposo in this one. So that still a lot of memories made in this building that I got to personally witness here. But lately there was a 9-goal game, and then this one where none of the goals were at 5-on-5. It just goes to show the lack of space. And for the Panthers, like I mentioned in segment number 1, really had a hard time getting to the net front, and Vasilevsky was making saves pretty easily with the glove, with the shooting lanes of not getting the second chance opportunities or redirections. And for the Panthers, the fact that you could win in different ways, and it's a different game script for them and how they get the win. Number one, it once again shows that there's momentum, that momentum doesn't carry from game to game for them. So if the Panthers want to play a game that slows the opposition down, they can. If they want to play a game where they could maybe trade chances back and forth, they can. Which for the Florida Panthers, I mean, that's how they were able to win their game on Friday night. They traded a few times. They didn't necessarily get their they didn't necessarily succeed in trying to get their rush chances, especially when St. Louis was was getting theirs early on, but the Panthers still were able to counter at times for them. And the fact that this series for the Panthers and Lightning, first of 4, this one is going to be a home and home. The fact that we are going to get these same teams again on Monday, the game script's not going to necessarily go the same, and the fact that you get to maybe see a different look. We know we will for the Panthers. Will Jonas Johansson start on the second end of a back-to-back for the Tampa Bay Lightning? More than likely. But the fact that the Panthers won this in the fashion that they did, Paul Maurice spoke about how this team is not cheating for offense. I mean, you see Etsu poking the puck out once again, like we mentioned, not chasing for checks for the sake of it. And then when you miss, you don't get left reaching for them. So that's really for the Panthers not getting caught. And the same thing with Greer, with Kucherov coming, hugged the boards, didn't give him a passing lane, and then Nosek, although he's not flashy, for him, is able to get out in space with the speed, and also knowing that Greer was there on the follow, and then just squeak it by Andrei Vasilevsky on the short side on that rush. I mean, for the Panthers, although Tomas Nosek doesn't have the same build as a Kevin Stenlund, it feels like in this year for the Florida Panthers and what they have on the penalty kill, you have a little bit of a switch in roles and a switch in built for physique in their bodies. Like Kevin Stenlund was the big body center who could battle with you along the boards and take a face off, while it was Ryan Lomberg who was a speedster, who was that last forechecker for the Panthers. Now it's kind of a little bit of the opposite as far as speed for the two. It's now the center who has more of the speed, and the winger who is more that physical guy who could create off the forecheck for them. And for the Panthers coming into this one, the fact that playing 10 road games in the last 12 and finishing off on a positive note on their previous West Coast trip, getting a stop at home, only to go back on the road. I mean, this team has had no time to relax. I asked Paul Maurice pregame about how he feels about just his ability to just be focused on hockey. And really, he spoke about how the game really translates well on the road. The guys like playing on the road because it's really a way of how your team is truly tested when you get into those tough environments for them. But I asked them a similar question after the game because of getting a win and the fact that there's no practice time. The team, for crying out loud, they flew in today to Tampa, and they're going back home in the same day. They didn't go into a hotel, spend the night, and then came in for a skate and a media availability. They didn't even have a skate today. So there hasn't been that time to practice. But there's nothing like game speed, as I like to say a lot here on the show. You just can't necessarily put every single situation. Yeah, you can practice how you want to play, but this stretch lately for the Panthers and them able to just get out there and play, which you don't need practice time from the Barkovs. You don't need practice times from the Reinharts. You do need to get your goalies some practice, yes. But for the other guys, the fact that there hasn't been that practice time and the newcomers to just still get with the systems for them, that in itself is speaks volumes to, once again, the culture around the hockey club that we watch every single day here. And 4 goals allowed in the last 3 once again. Paul Maurice spoke about how rush defense is still something that is not necessarily their Achilles heel. I don't want to call it that. But it's something that still needs to work on. For them. I would say it would be more of their Achilles heel if they were leading in rush chances against, but they're still in the top 2 in the entire league of rush chances against. So yeah, it might stick out when they give up a goal off the rush, but I want to look more big picture on the fact that it's not that many that they give up for them. And also once again, the PK, I want to go back to that because it's just so much fun to watch. It's just now you just look forward to the Panthers PK weirdly for them. And Paul Maurice spoke about how it's confidence when you get to the PK because the guys get a half step quicker for them. It's just like, it's not just impulsiveness. It doesn't feel that way. And it's not just only if you score, but it's just also if there's a save, the puck caroms to the corner, and then do you continue to go for a forecheck or you just reset? And the Panthers, thankfully for them, they're able to know when to do that for them. And it's once again something that they have at their disposal for them. And the fact that we're also not talking about goals given up by Spencer Knight of he should have it or we none of the goals that were given up by Spencer were those head scratching goals. The first one being, like we spoke about, defensive coverage, and then the other one with Braden Point coming in through with speed, and then getting that goal out of the outstretched leg of Spencer Knight, which got to give it to Braden Point. He's been a Panther killer for such a long time for them. But hey, 5 straight games at home. Maurice says that they love playing at home. If he could have 82 games for them at Amalie Arena, they would, but obviously it doesn't work that way. But still, I asked him if it felt like a little bit of a reward after, and it truly, the fact the Panthers get to stay home after Monday night, they get to relax a little bit after and just get that well-deserved family time for them. It's just the winning surely helps with that, along with the deserved family time for them. And the Panthers are leading the division. Once again, the Toronto Maple Leafs dropped their game at home against the New York Islanders on Hockey Night in Canada. So the battle for the top spot continues. And so that's one piece of good news once again for the Panthers here. We still don't have an update on Jesper Boquist. We'll find out to see if Jonah Gadjevich is good to go tomorrow. But the Panthers, like today, they didn't have a skate. They won't have a skate tomorrow. The Tampa Bay Lightning won't neither. So these teams, fresh off a game tonight, are just going to go right back at it. And it's just for these two. We're going to see, hopefully, maybe we'll see some more physicality, more stuff in between the whistles based on what was built from yesterday, based on all the times that the Panthers got really, truly physical, and the Tampa Bay Lightning really had not a lot of answers for them at certain points in this game. But we'll be back on tomorrow's edition of the show to give you another post-game edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, as the Panthers and Lightning will continue their season series on the second end of the back-to-back on this home and home tomorrow from Amalie Arena. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL Network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.